We're changing the coolant temperature sensor on a 2000 Toyota Tacoma Pre-Runner 3.4 liter. And here's what you gotta do so far. One, you gotta take off the plate cover underneath. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts for that. Then you gotta come up in here. You've gotta drain the radiator. I took off my radiator hose because it was kind of corroded, so I'll have to get a new one. Drain the radiator fluid, engine coolant, and then we got to take this guy off to access that sensor. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 down under here, and 5, and then there's one way back up in here, 6, to get this cover off. And right now I'm challenged by that 6th one. It's kind of hard to get to. Anyways, so once you get all those off, there is a connector here, right there, take off. Just pinch it and pull it. You gotta take off your plug wires off this little thing. Just kind of reach underneath and pry them off. And that's it so far. All right, now I'm using a magnet to get that last one that was giving me trouble. It's way down there and I don't feel like losing it. So there it is. That's a 10 millimeter to get these guys off. All right, now this thing should just come off, and it does. All right, now that sensor is apparently this one right here. Get that out of the way so you can see. Well, it's hard to see. Should I get in here? Right here. So here's the coolant where it goes into the engine. So that is right there where my middle finger is pointing to this wire. So it's got a little clip on top. If I can get some light on that, there it is. That should be it right there. So undo that clip, and we'll see if we can get that off. Right now I'm just trying to get that clip off, and that wasn't too bad. I'm sure that yours are probably going to stick because that's how it goes. So anyway, that's the one that's connected to this thing right here. And there it is. Right here. We got a 12-year-old running my camera. Sometimes he doesn't know where to point it. So right there, bud. All right, we'll see if we get that off. All right, so this is a 19 millimeter. Of course, it doesn't fit straight on because the fuel rail is in the way. So we're going to take this fuel rail piece off. That's a 16 or no, it's a 17 millimeter. So I'm going to loosen this up, and then I'll probably take this one off and just kind of maybe rotate it out of the way, or I'll take the whole thing off. But probably should put some cloth under there to catch the gasoline. So I'll be back in a second. All right, so I can't get that on because this plate's blocking, so I'm just going to have to use an open-ended to get it off. So actually, use that end. Break that loose. And here comes the fuel. You can smell it. And take this one off. And stub it. Yep. All right. You just gotta whack it. Threaded pretty deep. Oh, careful. There is a washer right there on the other side. Don't want to lose that. So, there's that. And got the washer. Oh, yep, and look, it rotates up out of the way. So now we can get direct line access to that temperature sensor. All right, now I'm using my 19mm with a extension. This is a 1/2 inch set because my 3/8 is, I don't have a 19 and 3/8, so. That was pretty easy. Take that off, do the rest by hand. All right, well, there it is. There's the old one. It looks, doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it, but we'll see what the new one does. All right, so here's the old one. Here's the new. There was a little washer. Kind of had to use a little razor blade to kind of free it from the old one. I know you're not supposed to probably use old washers, but you know what? It's an old truck, and just gonna use the old washer. So once I get it off. All right, so I'm gonna put that back on and kind of tell you the reason I decided to change this. Last year, the first cold day of the year, my truck wouldn't start, and tripped a code, and so I went and read the code, and it said that it was the engine temperature sensor. So I bought one, got the truck back home, and then it started running normal for a whole year. And then this year, first cold day of the year, it wouldn't start again. Just tripped the same code. And so I thought, how could a temperature sensor keep it from running or starting, really? And after about 10 minutes of searching online, I found out that if the temperature sensor's not reading right, it won't send the right fuel to air ratio or whatever, and that's what was keeping it from starting. So I'm just trying to go finger tight on right now before I go look up the torque specs, and I'll come back to you in a minute and tell you what the torque specs are. All right, so while screwing this on, I'm getting a lot more resistance than I feel like is okay. So I took it out, put it back in, just keep looking at it to see if there's any metal getting rubbed off or anything. I'm not seeing anything. Well, you know what? Yeah, I am. Right there. I'm just going to keep going in and out until it makes its way all the way down, because I don't know what else to do. All right, so the manual says 14 foot-pounds, but it also says to put a little Loctite on there. I'm using the blue because the guys at AutoZone said if you ever want to get it back off, use blue, not red. I don't know. I'll take their word for it. So, yep, I'm going to put this on now and tighten it down to 14 foot-pounds. Yeah, it definitely comes to a stop when it reaches the bottom. Can't get it any tighter by hand, so now I'll get the torque wrench out. The only thing I have is this giant torque wrench that'll do 14 foot-pounds. I'm kind of scared actually to strip it out. Man, I don't want to go any further. Alright, I'm too scared to torque it down to 14 with this big, huge apparatus, so I'm just going to do it by hand and be comfortable with it. Alright, as happens with old trucks, everything plastic falls apart, so I was just trying to put the clip back on to the top of the sensor, and that broke off. These little yellow things in there that guide the pins, those broke off. So now it looks like I'm going to go get a new one of these clips, but luckily it just comes apart right here. So I think. All right, before I run to the store, I'm gonna grab this fuel rail, put it back together, because the smell of fuel in here is giving me a headache. But my 12-year-old says it smells good. Should I be worried? I don't think so. Now I don't know the torque specs on that, but I'm just going hand tight. Not hand tight, but just whatever feels good. Took a little bit to get it off, so it'll probably be hard to over tighten. All right, that's good. All right, so here's the deal. Napa's closed after 5. O'Reilly's doesn't have it. AutoZone doesn't have it. And I've got the parts. I found the parts that broke. They're just these little plastic things that I really don't know what they do other than just keep it from jamming. I don't know. So I'm just gonna go without those parts because this thing, I mean, it's pretty snug. So I'm just gonna hope it doesn't wiggle off and we'll see what happens. So there it is installed, not quite as snug as the old one, but you know what? I think it'll work. Now we're just putting everything back in reverse. So put that on, bolt it down, make sure these clips go back on. I gotta get a new radiator hose because that was falling apart. And we'll button it back up and see if it runs. Tell you what, these little guys that go under here are not particularly fun to put back in, especially the one over here on the left side. It's like, yeah, babe.
Can we get the elephant stroller?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The elephant stroller.
Okay, get it.
Okay. I need help moving this Mayor.
That's the 4-year-old.
There's
All right.
lipstick on me still.
Got everything back together. New radiator hose on. Don't forget this last little clip right down here. Almost forgot that one. Coolant back in before you start it. Almost forgot that too. No tools sitting on top. All right, now for the start. So here we go.